Da 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 da. Hello and welcome. I'm Zombie Kitty and welcome to another film review vlog thing, I guess. This is going to work in the same way as my Squid Game and Free Guy video. But this is going to be on Spider-Man No Way Home. Originally, I was going to release this I think a couple of days after I went to go see the film, but actually, because I guess it's on the same level as Avengers Endgame, where people, you know, for good reason, are obviously being like, don't spoil it, don't spoil it. So actually, I've actually decided to release this about a week after it's released in the UK. Now, admittedly, we did get it a couple of days before, I think everywhere else. We got it on the 15th. So I did go and see it on the 16th. And here we are. It's a week after I went to go see it. I have taken notes to remind myself of what to talk about, because there's a lot. But I just wanted to do a video on my thoughts on it, really, I guess. So how this is going to work is the first section is going to be non-spoilers. So anything that was in the promotional material, in the trailers, that's what counts as non-spoilerish. So anything that was, you know, already seen in the trailers and stuff like that is what I'm going to be talking about in the non-spoiler section. There's then going to be a little clip or something to say, okay, here we go, here are spoilers. So you have a few seconds to click off the video. And then we're just going to go straight into spoilers because, oh boy, there's a lot to talk about there. Firstly, Spider-Man No Way Home was really good. It was really, really good. And I think that even though I grew up on the Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire trilogy, I think actually Tom Holland's a really good Spider-Man. He looks the part, but also I think he has that right sort of personality, as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. So I've actually really liked him the whole time in the MCU as Spider-Man. I'm trying to think this might be a really short non-spoiler section, just because I don't know what to talk about. Okay, well, in terms of acting, again, they're all really, really good, and I think that even the villains who come back, so again, this is in the trailer, William Dafoe as the Green Goblin, Alfred Molina, I apologise if I'm pronouncing that wrong, as Dr. Octopus. They're all really good, and actually it was really good to see them return, because again, I grew up on the Sam Raimi trilogy, I grew up on the Tobey Maguire trilogy, so seeing all those villains come back was amazing, and I was just like, ah. Also, this was like the loudest cinema audience I've been with, aside from going to like festivals and film festivals and stuff. In an actual ordinary cinema, this was the most reactive people have been. Because again, like, I'm in the UK, we don't really do like the cheering and clapping and stuff like that. But for this one, yeah, people definitely got into it. Which I think you kind of need to, with the premise that this is the multiverse opening up. So people from other universes are coming into this world. Which, obviously that's being done already with, like, I think DC are about to do that as well. What If was another one, the animated Marvel show, which I loved. But it seems to be a thing that's happening at the moment. WandaVision as well. Another show that I really enjoyed. So it was going to bring up some childhood memories. And even actually the films that I didn't enjoy so much, like the Amazing Spider-Man films. So Rhys Ifans, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, as the Lizard, was really good. As well as Jamie Foxx, and actually the design they've done for Jamie Foxx as Electro I think is better compared to whatever blue thing he was in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. So I think that worked a lot better, and it also seemed a bit more comic book accurate. Not completely, obviously, but close, or closer. But they were really good. I think actually out of all of them, I think Jamie Foxx was probably the most interesting one. I think I enjoyed him more in this than I did in Amazing Spider-Man 2. But for me, again, Amazing Spider-Man 2 had a lot more problems. And a lot more issues than just the acting. So, you know, there's only so much you can do with a script that's not that great. And then also you had Sandman. So he, at the time that he comes into it, he's a lot more sympathetic, I want to say, towards Spider-Man. But I want to talk about his arc more in spoilers, because I had a problem with his character in this, but I can't talk about it in this section. But I liked him as well, and actually all the acting was really, really good. And again, these are also actors who have been in the MCU for a while. So Jon Favreau, who plays Happy, the name's escaping me, who plays Aunt May, and Tom Holland and Zendaya and all those lot. Like, they've all got used to what this is. So obviously there wasn't really a bad performance in this, or not one that I could think of anyway. So this is a very quick thing that I just want to mention, because I was wrong on something. So I reacted to the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer a while back, I think it was a couple months ago, and there was a shot of Spider-Man in a black and gold suit. Now, originally, I got really excited that that was Miles Morales. Just want to say now, it's not. I'm just an idiot that got super excited. But that's just a very quick thing I wanted to mention. I was completely wrong on that one. It's actually one of Tom Holland's outfits, or costumes, sorry. And even visually, this was really, really cool. I kind of wish I'd seen it on the IMAX screen. I think that would have been really good. I saw it on a normal 2D screen, and actually there were certain moments where I was like, this would look amazing on the IMAX screen. Case in point, and again, there is a moment of this in the trailer, but when Spider-Man and Doctor Strange are fighting over the time stone box thing, and Doctor Strange ends up launching Spider-Man into like his mirror universe, and it's basically where the whole thing goes all Inception-y and stuff like that. But that looked amazing, and actually I was kind of thinking like this would have been really cool to see in IMAX, but then it got a bit too weird and like kaleidoscopy, and I actually had to put my head down because I was feeling a bit ill. So maybe not a good idea for me personally to see in IMAX, but that would have been incredible to know what that would have looked like, because I think that would have looked really good. But yeah, I did have to put my head down for a few seconds during that bit, because I was like, oh my god, I feel a bit ill. I'm looking at the time on my camera, and I know that the spoilers are probably going to be longer. I apologise. It's very difficult to talk about this film, and that's why I'm sounding so hesitant, because I'm not really sure what to talk about in the non-spoiler section. Just because there's so much that happens that hasn't actually been revealed in the trailers. So I can't talk about that here. So that's why I'm being so hesitant. The only criticism I have is, so this was about 2.5 hours long, which on one side it needed to be long because of what the film is, but there were a few moments where I was like, okay, I'm kind of zoning out a bit. I'm sort of getting a bit distracted. So I do think it was a little bit too long. Not by much, but there were some moments where I was like, okay, this probably could have been cut down a bit. This is going on for a bit too long. There's a few, I mean the ending fight scene, I get why it was longer and why certain things happened. But again, I was like, yeah, again, feel like some of this could have been cut down, or could have been cut a bit shorter. There's a couple of weird, awkward moments as well between characters, which they're not really worth mentioning. It's just so there's some moments in the film where some character will be talking and the space of silence between them is a bit too long. I'm just like, cut, someone talk, someone go to the next bit, why are we still here? So that was a bit odd, especially considering how many Spider-Man films are in the MCU now. So yeah, I thought that was a bit odd, but to be honest, I mean, that's my only criticism of the film. Oh yeah, and the spoiler one, which I'll get into in a minute. But yeah, I think it was just a little bit too long, and I had an issue with one of the characters. So overall, yeah, I will say if you haven't seen this and you still want to see it, I would say see it in a way that is safe for you. Obviously, with the Voldemort virus still going around and it causing problems once again, if you want to see it in a way that's safe for you. If you don't feel safe going to the cinema, that's fine. Find another way to watch it. But yeah, basically what I'm saying is I recommend this if you're a fan of Spider-Man. If you've been here for this long, yeah, I would really recommend it. Okay, so I have talked non-spoilers about Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm going to give you guys a couple of seconds to click off the video because I am about to talk all things spoilers and just go mad with that. So, I guess here we go. Oh god, where to start? Okay, so the first one I want to start off with actually is, I said in the non-spoiler section that this film really shows how different Tom Holland's Peter Parker is compared to the others. Now what I mean by that is the first person that he, I guess, properly meets, he meets Norman Osborn, as Norman Osborn. So he meets him and they're with Aunt May as well. And what I liked is that Aunt May suggested, like, you know, he seems sick, he doesn't seem quite right up here. Why didn't you try and fix him? Like, that's what you do. You help people and you try and cure them. Or you help people the best you can. And I think that really speaks to Tom Holland's version. Because at first he's like, it's not my problem. It's not my problem. I've got to do what Doctor Strange is telling me to do, which is because I messed up the multiverse. Which also, yeah, okay, I'll to continue my point and then we'll talk about that. Because I've just realised actually, yeah, even though that's the non-spoiler section, but yeah, we'll talk about that as well. He says like, no, I've got to do what Doctor Strange tells me. But you can tell at the same time that's not who he is. He's kind of someone that will do something his own way, I guess. He's weirdly enough like a Tony Stark, but a more like good-hearted version, if that makes any sense. Like, he'll kind of do his own thing, but it will be to help others instead of help himself. And this is kind of that big example of Doctor Strange says, you know, their fate is that they all get killed trying to fight Spider-Man. And Tom Holland's Peter Parker is like, well, I think they deserve a second chance. So, no, I'm not going to do what you tell me to do. And I think that was a really interesting character arc. Obviously that changes as the film goes on, but at first, the whole reason why the villains do go haywire and escape is because Tom Holland's like, no, I'm going to try and fix you guys, I'm going to try and cure you, and then maybe you'll end up being better people. Unfortunately, that's not really the case for most of them, but it makes sense to his character that he'd do that. So I did quite like that, and yeah, it really showed sort of what his character is like compared to the other ones. And the fact that he's not Doctor Strange, and he's a more good-hearted Tony Stark, I guess. Like, he wants to help other people and he'll do whatever he can to be able to help other people. And I did quite like that. And yes, even down the line, he does end up curing Doc Ock. So, and that was a lovely moment as well, because at first he's obviously like, no, you can't fix me, I don't want to be fixed. And then he ends up fixing the chip in the back of his head, or on the back of his spine. And that whole moment of, because the other villains don't trust the Tom Holland Peter Parker, and they're like, he's just going to send us back and that's it. And then that moment is when they're like, maybe this one's different. Obviously things go completely wrong by the end of it, but I thought that was a really nice moment. Let's talk about the actual multiverse opening up and why that happens. Because I've spoken to my best friend about this. Nick, sorry, I'm putting you on blast here. But we did talk about this. Because the whole reason that the multiverse opens up is right from the opening scene. It starts where the last one ended. So the last one ended with Mysterio saying, Spider-Man is Peter Parker, he's crazy, he killed me, he wants to attack everyone, blah 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 blah. And it then immediately goes into the aftermath of that. And I really liked that they didn't do like a timestamp thing. They didn't go like 7 months later or something. Like, no, it starts on that closing scene, on that ending scene, and then continues on right from there, which I really, really liked, because it really showed the absolute chaos that's going to come from that almost immediately, considering that everyone knows Spider-Man. So the fact that they now know his real identity, everything's going to go wrong, everyone's after him, everyone's going to treat him as a criminal, and then MJ and Ned are going to be treated as criminals as well because they're accomplices. So that whole thing, even when they're in the police station and being interrogated, I weirdly enough liked that they put that all in there, because it made sense that was going to happen. I'm glad they didn't go like I said, I'm glad they didn't do like 2 months later or something. I'm glad they just went, no, we're going back into this. This is the consequence of Mysterio's action. So I thought that was a really interesting way to open the film. And very chaotic. Like, it, from the second the film starts, it does not let you breathe. It does not let you calm. Like, that opening scene is just absolute madness. So yeah, so the whole reason that Peter Parker wants people to forget who he was, or for some people to forget who he was, is because obviously his life is a complete mess. Him, Ned and MJ all get rejected from all of their is it college or universities or something, because of what's been going on. Everyone's treating him like a criminal or differently. He goes back to the school, and obviously there's crowds of protesters and stuff, with banners and stuff, and the staff are treating him differently, and you can tell that he's not okay with this. He doesn't want this. And I thought it was interesting with the way that people interacted with him afterwards. I think there is a comic where this does happen. I think it was Doc Ock reveals Spider-Man's identity, from what I remember. And it goes in a very similar pattern. So I do like that, weirdly enough, they're sort of following one of the comics. So I quite liked that. Which brings me on to my next point. This is a really emotional film. Oh boy. I can't really call this a happy film, if I'm honest. There's definitely happy moments in it, and there's definitely moments where I was like, which I'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, this is not a happy film. We lose a big character, which I didn't expect. Yeah, really didn't expect Aunt May to die. And the way the way that they did that was so good though. But God, they were just trying to help. That's all they were trying to do. They were just trying to help, and God. There's a few things I hope that Marvel keep, because Marvel always seems to have a bit of a problem with, like, death. Like, death is never the end for them. Even if a character dies, they'll come back probably in the next film or something. And that's something I hope that sticks. The other thing I hope that sticks is the ending. So, actually, I'll leave the ending till last. The next thing I want to talk about as well is the Sandman's sort of character arc, which I said in non-spoilers that I thought was a bit weird. So when you first meet him, I think he was supposed to come from just after that particular film, after the third film, but before he goes. So he's quite sympathetic towards Spider-Man and is quite happy to see him and all that lot. And then when he finds out that he's not the Peter Parker that he knows, he doesn't trust him, which again, cool, makes sense. He's going, I don't know you, why should I trust you? Makes sense. After seeing Doc Ock, he feels like he starts to trust him again, and he's okay with that. But then Jamie Foxx is the one that really, him and Norman Osborn are the ones that really sort of get the villains to change their mind and turn them back to the dark side, I suppose. But I felt like it didn't really make sense that Sandman went evil again. I feel like the only reason he went bad again is because they needed an equal amount of Spider-Men and villains in the end fight scene. But to me, that didn't really make sense as to why he went bad again. Yes, I did say Spider-Men. But that didn't make sense to me as to why Sandman went from being sort of more sympathetic to suddenly bad again, and then the end of his character arc is being sympathetic again. But yeah, I don't think they used him enough, and to be fair, I get why. This is quite a packed film with a lot of villains, and it's already 2.5 hours long. So I do get that some characters had to be sacrificed. You know, some of their time had to be sacrificed and shortened, and I do get that. But yeah, his sort of character arc was a bit weird, I thought. And yes, I did say Spider-Man because we have Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, which was amazing to see. And unfortunately, I did get spoiled for this the day before I went to see the film. However, their actual intros I thought were really good, because Andrew's introduction is, you think that that's Tom Holland. Basically, MJ and Ned are trying to find Peter Parker after Aunt May died. Can't find him. By the way, Ned can also do those circle things that Doctor Strange can do, which was interesting and kind of out of nowhere, but I'll buy it. But he ends up drawing up a circle wishing to find Peter Parker, and what he finds instead is the Andrew Garfield one. The Peter Parker interactions were probably my favourite part of this whole film. They were so good because you got a commentary on their films, on their storylines, but also they kind of took the mick out of it a little bit. Which I quite liked. But also there is that moment in the trailer where Tom Holland's MJ ends up doing the falling, the Gwen Stacy fall and the MJ fall and all that lot. But Andrew Garfield was the one that saves her. And I actually really liked that Tom Holland's Peter Parker didn't save her. I liked that it was Andrew Garfield, because obviously in Amazing Spider-Man 2 he failed and Gwen Stacy died. So the fact that he managed to save this MJ from the same situation, I really liked that, and it was a good sort of a good closure for him, like emotional closure. And obviously he was quite emotional about it, and you got why. But MJ was just like, are you okay? But you understood why he was like that. So I thought that was a really good decision to have him be the one saving her, instead of the Tom Holland Peter Parker. But I have to say, seeing Tobey Maguire again, and especially like his music, like the Danny Elfman score come in, Like, again, like I said, I grew up with the Sam Raimi trilogy. So that's the one that I will latch onto the most. And the one that I love the most. So yeah, that was just, that was so good. That was so amazing. I think for them as well, I liked the, even for Tobey Maguire, it seemed like closure as well. Especially when he was able to speak to Sandman and Otto Octavius. So I did like that this film wasn't just sort of a weird closure for Tom Holland's Peter Parker, but it was closure for the others. They needed this just as much as, I guess, Tom Holland didn't need this situation at all, but Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's Peter Parkers definitely did need this. Aside from that, like, just having all of those Peter Parkers on the screen was, it was amazing. And this was the big thing that Marvel had tried to keep secret. Kind of a weirdly badly kept secret, to be honest. Because it was weird, like, they kept hinting it and then kept saying it was fake and then kept hinting it, then kept saying it was fake. And it almost got to the point where it was a bit ridiculous. But I'm glad that they were actually in it. Also, very quickly, another cameo that I did not expect to see was Matt Murdock in the opening scene as Peter Parker's lawyer. Didn't expect that. That was cool to see though. And I think Charlie Cox, who plays that Matt Murdock, I think he's staying on as that character. From what I remember, I think he is. But yeah, that was unexpected, but really, really cool to see. I really liked that. The last couple of things I want to talk about is the ending and the mid-credit scenes. So let's talk about the mid-credit scenes first. There were two. So the first one I do want to talk about. The second one I don't really want to mention. It was just a sneak peek of Doctor Strange 2. Which, to be fair, that does look cool. And I need to watch What If once again. But I don't really have too much to say on that one at the moment. But the first mid-credits scene, it was one that I enjoyed, but actually after coming out of the cinema I realised that one was a bit of a waste of time. So unfortunately I'm going to have to spoil the end of Venom 2. I am going to have to spoil the ending of Venom 2. Sorry, but I need to for this. So the ending of Venom 2 is that Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock and Venom, something happens and they end up in the Tom Holland's world. So essentially the multiverse opened up and they were sucked into that world as well. And that's where it ends, where you find out that Eddie Brock and Venom were now in the Tom Holland universe. That's where the Venom 2 mid-credits, or ending, ended. The mid-credits scene for this, for Spider-Man No Way Home, continues that. So Eddie Brock and Venom are in a bar, and they're talking to the bartender for a bit, and then they suddenly disappear. But they leave a little bit of the symbiote behind. Now, while that's interesting, I do also think that I wanted more. I really wanted more. I really wanted Venom and that Eddie Brock to actually be involved in the film. Even if it was one or two scenes, I think that would have been interesting. Because, again, they're very different compared to the Topher Grace, Eddie Brock and Venom in Spider-Man 3. So it would have been really interesting to see them in that universe. But, yeah, I enjoyed it while it happened, but I did realise once I came out the cinema, like, you could have done so much more with those two scenes, and I feel like it was wasted potential, to be honest. But again, don't know, maybe that little bit of symbiote that was left behind is going to lead on to more things. I hope so. I really hope so. So the last thing I want to talk about, this is a very long video, I do apologise, but the last thing I want to talk about is the ending. Again, me and my best friend have both seen it. My best friend, yes, sorry Nick, I'm putting you on blast again. My best friend hated the ending. I haven't decided if I like it or not, but I will say it makes sense. So, The ending, and again, this was actually in the trailer, the multiverse starts cracking more. The only way that Peter Parker, Tom Holland's one, realises that he can fix things is that if he asks Doctor Strange for everyone to forget who he was. Like, completely. So that does include, like, Ned and MJ and Happy and all them lot, and even the Avengers. And it does happen. So the ending is Peter Parker going round, talking to MJ, talking to Ned, talking to Happy, and they don't know who he is. I'm very interested to know, because I think Tom Holland does have a contract for 3 more Spider-Man films. I think he does. I'm very interested to know where this is going to go now. And part of me also thinks, like I said earlier, Marvel don't seem to know, or don't seem to realise that death is supposed to be permanent. They always seem to bring back dead characters, always seem to reverse certain decisions that are quite big. I really hope that they don't reverse this one. I would rather it be that Peter Parker tries to get other people to remember him and they relearn, instead of Doctor Strange or someone realising that, oh, I'm going to reverse the spell kind of thing. I would rather it be sort of a long process rather than just like that. I appreciate the ending and I think it makes sense, but I haven't decided if I like it or not. But I will say this, that I don't want them to reverse that ending in a very quick scene or something. I would like it to be sort of long term. Also, if it's long term as well, then the emotional impact of it sinks in as well, rather than that happens and then a scene later it's done, like it's reversed. There's no emotional impact to that. So yeah, basically Marvel, I appreciate the ending, but you need to keep it. You can't go back on this. That's kind of all I have to say on the film. All I have to say. I think this video is going to be like 40 minutes long. But yeah, I overall really enjoyed it. I can't say it's a happy film, even though there's happy moments in it. I came up very emotional, but I think also everything that happened in it made sense for it to happen. And I can't say that I hate any moment. Even if I do think it was a little bit too long, there were some moments, especially the fight scenes and stuff, where I kind of started zoning out a bit. They were just a little bit too long. But yeah, I would say that overall, if you do want to go and see this, I highly recommend it. But again, just be safe. The Voldemort virus is still around, and yeah, we just need to be safe. But I would really recommend this. So this was my very long video on Spider-Man No Way Home. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all soon. Bye!